Benoit Trillier leads in the number 1 Audi, and that has been a familiar rejoin that you've heard. The Audi's so strong, but not particularly smooth sailing. As you look there, as he comes towards you, the under tray on that front end shot, you can see it beginning to flap. You also see smoke out the back, black exhaust smoke. That is against the rules. That diesel smoke is required to be collected in a particle filter so that none of it comes out. And if you see more black smoke, you think that they're dumping more fuel in, and that is against the rules as well. So we'll see what happens with that. Maybe Kelly knows more.
Well, the officials are taking a look at that black smoke, but the concern for Audi, as we've watched them on all these pit stops, really taking a good look under there at that underfloor, they're worried it's come a little loose. Remember that one car took a bit of a rough ride early on in this race, and since then there's been a little bit of aero vibration, and on this rough track, that underfloor keeps hitting the track, and they think it might be getting sort of chipped away a little bit by bit, and there is a regulation of how thick that needs to be at the end of the race. So they keep checking to see if there's been more damage done to it. The fix for it, if they need to, they'll have to take the nose off to get to it, but then they can fix it. They've practiced it before, and they're testing, so they know the procedure. Should be able to do it pretty quickly. Right now, they say they think they're still in pretty good shape, but they're keeping an eye on it. The last thing they want is to finish this race and then get disqualified.
Listen very carefully. You hear that under tray bouncing down the straightaways. It's gonna affect the way the car handles, but as Kelly said, by rule it has to be a certain thickness. That is going to be something that they're going to have to fix, and I don't think it's going to be a pit lane fix.
And unfortunately what happens is once you get air in there, it starts to vibrate to the point that it will come down at some point. And then, as you just mentioned earlier, off air, it can go under the rear tires. Big problem.
Number 6, the Muscle Milk Picket Racing entry is in. Klaus Graf behind the wheel.
Yeah, quick stop down here by Muscle Milk. Just taking fuel, getting Klaus Graf a quick drink of a sports drink down here. And this team trying to fight back from problems early on in this race. Still down 2 laps right now, but that car working very well. They've done quite a bit of development. Klaus was telling me earlier this weekend, a lot of differential development, really trying to give that car more braking stability heading into the corners and then trying to get that car off the corner better. He said they've definitely made some big improvements there. But those problems early on in this race, unless the Audis have problems, they're probably not going to find the top step tonight.
Wow, I don't know. I mean, I think about the problems right now with the Audi. I think about the black smoke, and they were looking at the black smoke out of both of them. If the Audis have to turn down the diesel, and that is what makes the power in that. It's just how much fuel do you dump in that diesel power plant. If they have to turn down the fuel feed, remember, they have less of it. They cannot go as far, and they have a smaller restrictor this year. That may begin to back them up towards the Muscle Milk entry, and if they can keep running those good pace, the number 6 car, they may have something for him at the end. It just takes a hiccup, and we're already seeing a chink in the armor on the number 1.
Well, speaking, Brian, with Lucas and Klaus on the Muscle Milk team, that team did a great self-analysis over the winter, looking at where they needed to improve, those issues that cost them races, cost them, championships, and really have addressed it. And as we watch them, Justin, running today, you can't help but say this is a team that showed up extremely well prepared.
Yeah, very well prepared. You see the 13 pulling out after serving some form of penalty there. But I've got a great idea, and I'm sure that Dr. Ulrich and co have come up with it. Wean it off now. You're 2 laps ahead. Wean it off the power. No one can see the smoke. Darkness comes. No one can see black smoke at night. I've just solved a $100 million problem.
Like we've never seen that happen at Le Mans.
Exactly.
I mean, that has always been the supposition at Le Mans when they've run the diesel-powered cars, whether it was Peugeot or whether it was Audi, was that at nighttime, yes, the cars go a little bit quicker because of the weather conditions, but at times they went a lot quicker, and there was some question as to whether it was because they were putting more fuel in. The P2 leader in the pits.
Yeah, Marino Franchitti just taking fuel on this stop of the HPD cars. We've seen problems with ESM. We've seen problems with the 552. They're working through some electrical stuff. But this 551 car, everything running flawlessly. It was Scott Tucker who started in this car earlier today. He ran 3 hours and 20 minutes before he got out. So he did his allotted amount of time. The minimum amount of time is 3 hours and 15 minutes. He covered that by 5 minutes. Took about an hour and 15 minute break. And now he's doing a 3 hour and 15 minutes. in the other car, the sister car. So he's going to fill his allotment for both of these cars. But that 551 looking very strong in P2.
And then once he's done, he doesn't need to get back in either one of them. He's got 2 good shoes in each of those cars. There's no reason to climb back in, and Scott Tucker can sit back and watch, hopefully, one of his entries claim the victory in the P2 category.
But giving him full credit, Scott Tucker is not a man who often backs down from spending his time in the car above and beyond the call of duty. And there are 2 Frankittis here. Dario is here, who's on the grid watching Marino get ready for his car for the start of the race. And Dario's such a hard weather fan. He's actually been in his motorhome since the start, watching this on the sofa about 100 feet from here. So Dario, we know you're watching, and we know you're exerting 0 effort while you are.
And he hasn't come up to visit us. Benoit Trillier leads Marino Franchitti, having a good run. More to come from Sebring International Raceway. The epic endurance contest, the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, continues under beautiful skies here in Central Florida. And the Audi's working his way through traffic. The number 1, driven by Benoit Trillier, leads, working his way through some other P1 traffic. GT cars in there as well, and this is what the drivers have dealt with all day long. A little bit earlier, we saw a great battle between Corvette and BMW, and Corvette, the number 4, takes it in deep into 17, gets a little wide.
And that's all he needed. That little mistake of bringing it in too deep. He runs out wide. He can't pick up the proper line. It's a real challenge.
So let's use Forza Motorsport 4 and show me how to do it the right way.
All right, well, this is going around the track using Forza. This is turn 17. We bring it in, and right there, what happened? He brings it in too deep. He can't get slowed down. He's got to turn. He's lost all his momentum. He's probably lost 5-10 miles an hour, and that speed exiting the corner is going to magnify itself as you go down the front straightaway here. Proper line. Again, as we enter the corner, we leave a little bit in reserve, because when we enter a corner, we always want to think about the getting out part. And this is it. We've gotten to our apex. We accelerate. We open up our hands. Use all the road. Hopefully, if we've done it right, we carry a lot of momentum past start finish.
And if you've done it right, you don't have to hit the reset button.
Well,
that's the good thing about the video game.
Admit to being the worst person in the world with a joystick, so that's as smooth as I could do it. That took about 3 hours.
On board the Corvette, you'll see the number there on the dash. That's telling the driver which gear he's in. And when the 4 car had problems, and problems for the number 6. And it looks like one of the prototype challenge cars. Could that be the 52?
It really did look like the 52.
It does look like the 52. That is the 52. That was our leader, David Chang, behind the wheel now of the 52, and a problem with the 6 and the 52 in one of the braking zones.
We have seen a lot of contact in that area.
Oh, this is out of turn 10.
Chang is offline there.
Oh, he just
totally checked up, and Klaus was not looking for that big of a speed differential.
Well, and that's the exact same thing that happened earlier that we saw in there when Garcia ran into the back of John Bennett, the prototype challenge car, just braking earlier than the following car suspected. Here it is, real time.
He just put out the brakes way too early, and again, that's one of the challenging things about this type of racing. That car, the 52 car, has been really quick. You get the slow driver in it, and you've got issues.
Well, I've been listening to Klaus Graf on the radio talking back and forth with the team, and he's telling the team that the car feels fine. He can't see any damage. Obviously, very difficult in the cockpit to see that. But the team looking at our television cameras and also looking at their telemetry coming off that car, and the team also saying they aren't seeing anything there, but they're very concerned that they might receive a penalty. They told Klaus, just be ready. They're handing out a lot of penalties today, and we might have to come to pit lane for a stop plus 60.
Well, it's interesting. It was the outlap for David Chang in the 52, so he doesn't have tires up to temperature yet, and I'm sure that Klaus is closing in on him at a pretty great rate. Hadn't been behind him for any period of time, thinking that he's going to brake where you normally would on warm tires. He doesn't know that he's just come out of the pits. We've completely taken by surprise.
Completely by surprise, and I think a penalty would be very, very unfair right now, because You know, yes, Klaus is the overtaking car. The responsibility is on him. The onus is on him. But, you know, when you're catching up from David Chang's point of view, he's just gone out. He's on his out lap. He's trying to get in this. We've seen a lot of issues with these cars getting up, their tire temperatures up, even though it's hot out there right now. And you know what? He hasn't got a ton of experience in these kind of cars, and he braked early. But, you know, Klaus was coming like a man on muscle milk, I'll tell you that.
Like, you know what, and he was being very, you know, aggressive on his approach, but again, you've got to maintain consistency. Boy, I don't know whether there's a cone stuck in that nose or not, looking at Klaus going by there. And once they laid the rules down, when Garcia got into the back of John Bennett very early in the race, that is what dictated that they also give it to McNish for that light deal. I mean, it really, There we just heard the 6 car, stop plus 60, avoidable contact.
You see, that's it. I know exactly what's happening here. That's why you guys play American football and we play rugby. You keep stopping every 5 minutes just to deal so you can all have a break. Rugby, we keep flowing while we beat the doodah out of each other. So, no, I agree. It was certainly not fun for either of them, but you know what? I don't think you and I could have probably done much different if we were out there.
And I think, unfortunately, consistency, and that's what, Johnny, you're alluding to. I mean, the one thing that you can say, whether you want to argue the calls or not, is that they have been consistent, whether it was intentional, whether it was accidental, whether it was an intelligent move, whether it was a dumb move you should have never tried. They have been consistent. If there's been contact that has affected another person's race, the person who made the contact serves a penalty, and that has been consistent.
Well, and Brian, you know what? I mean, everybody out there knows I'm biased towards the 3 car.
No.
And I am.
Really?
Well, why keep it a secret? And so, you know what? I thought that was a bogus call, but once they did that, that kind of mandated, okay, that's how they're going to be making all these calls. You got to maintain their consistency. So, you know, they are doing that.
And for David Chang, you talked about it. He doesn't have a lot of experience in this type of car. He is a PR1 Matheson kind of protege. He has come through their Formula car ranks, has raced with them for most of his career. He's now made the move up to the Continental Tire Prototype Challenge category. And, you know, he was just taking his time to get up to speed and got bit. The 91, the Viper, just on his way off pit lane. Mark Goossens was having a good run up in the top 3 and then came to the pit road to serve what looks like a routine pit stop, and he'll be back out. That GT battle has been intense, and right now it's Olivier Beretta who leads in the 62, the Ferrari from Risi.
You know, Brian, let's address that pro versus am thing again real quickly. One thing that pros do very well is when they leave on sticker tires, they go super fast.
Some radio transmission there, and Klaus won't be happy, but his team explained it to him. They've been consistent. This is what it's been. That's the way it'll be. Well, Klaus Graf goes to the principal's office, so we'll take a quick break, and as we do, we'll look back 11 years to the action from Sebring.
2002 saw Audi complete a three-peat at Sebring. This time, Dindo Capello took his second win with new teammates Johnny Herbert and Christian Pescatori. In the GTS class, 3 years of frustration ended for the Corvette factory team as Johnny O'Connell, Ron Fellows, and Oliver Galvin claimed their first Sebring victory as a team. In GT, another set of teammates started a good run together. Sasha Masson and Lucas Luhr used a Sebring victory to launch a season that saw them claim 7 of 10 races.
This isn't just a car. It's a legend. This isn't just a family. It's a statement. And this isn't just a brand. It's an attitude. This is SRT. Street and Racing Technology. We strongly encourage you not to drink and drive.
A message from the Patron Racing Team.
Whoa. Nobody insures more bikes than Progressive. Do you guys ride?
Well, no. Sometimes. Yes.
Yeah. Well, if you know anybody else who also rides, send them here. We got great coverage. It's not like bikers love their bikes more than life itself. I doubt anyone will even notice.
Leading the pack in motorcycle insurance. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today.
Mulligan, sir. Mulligan. Take a mulligan. I took something for my sinuses, but I still have this cough.
Truth is, a lot of sinus products don't treat cough.
They don't?
Nope, but Alka-Seltzer Plus Severe Sinus does. It treats your worst sinus symptoms, plus that annoying cough.
Sorry, that was my fault, sir.
Alka-Seltzer Plus Severe Sinus.
Oh, what a relief it is.
Try Alka-Seltzer Plus Severe Sinus day and night for complete relief from your worst sinus symptoms.
Today's charter tip, take your favorite sports with you. Baseball, basketball, football, soccer, that's a lot to keep track of, unless you have Charter. As a Charter customer, you can watch live ESPN programming on your smartphone or tablet anywhere. Just go to Charter's TV on the Go page and download the Watch ESPN app. Then watch live games and shows at any time. Another way Charter gives you more access. Visit charter.net/tips to learn more.
Why don't others offer zero-turn riders with steering wheel control and four-wheel steering? Who else puts electronic power steering in lawn and garden tractors? How many others deliver the beautiful Cub Cadet Signature Cup? Prove to yourself what makes Cub Cadet the smartest choice. Take a test drive at your local dealer. There's no better time to get a Cub Cadet, thanks to $100 off select models. Visit your local dealer today to see what makes Cub Cadet the smartest choice.
You're right on board the Viper of Mark Goosens from Sebring International Raceway as he gives chase to John Edwards just in front in that white BMW from Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. The Z4, brand new to that team and the series this year, but John Edwards, new to the series as well, and he is doing one heck of a job behind the wheel of that BMW. Just 21 years old, and he has shown why he was drafted in to partner with Joey Hand, take Joey Hand's place when Joey has to go race in the DTM series. John Edwards will be with Dirk Mueller for 6 races, but now we understand there will be a penalty for the BMW for working on the car while refueling. I want to make sure that that's the 56. It'll be a stop plus 20, and those are the costly mistakes that can take you out of the lead. It is the 56. Let's take a look. So the engine must be off while you're fueling, and then the tires can go on. So someone other than a driver's helper or someone who can clean the windshield must have been doing something to the car while the fuel was going in. That is forbidden by the rules, and it'll be a stop plus 20 seconds for the BMW squad. Painful.
Well, it was just great GT pit stops down here in pit lane. The Corvette and the BMW came in. Corvette behind the BMW by about 200 feet, and it was the Corvette boys with a great stop down here, about 2 seconds quicker than the BMWs. And then on the next lap, it was the 62 Risi Ferrari that came in, and they had the longest stop for the tire change. They were about 12 seconds compared to about 9 seconds on the Corvette guys. So that's where you see Westy out there right now on the tail of that Ferrari.
Well, and John Edwards just came to the pit lane to serve his penalty, but a great battle here as Goosens on hot Michelin's got the better of Matteo Malicelli, who had just come out of pit lane. Malicelli trying to hold on as best he could, but just did not have temperature and pressure yet, and Goosens able to pounce.
And we were talking about that before the previous break. One of the things that your top drivers can do, they can push really hard on cold tires with low tire pressure. You know, Malicelli really pushed hard on that lap. Goosens had a couple laps, more pressure on in his tires, able to make that move going into 17, and there you see a frustrated BMW.
But, you know, it is that extra, that working tire temperature through 17 is probably more noticeable there than anywhere else, and it happens to be the most important corner almost on the track. So that's why the pass was relatively simple but brilliantly executed. And you see the Ferrari now has got the Porsche between them, but as soon as he goes by, I think you'll start to see him get himself into a rhythm.
This Risi organization very impressed with Malicelli he has been quicker at times than his more experienced teammate throughout the week, Olivier Beretta, and they've had nothing but praise for the Italian, and he's showing what he's made of right here. I mean, a great battle. He just couldn't hold him off. It was Olivier Beretta who climbed out of the 62 and handed it over to Malicelli. A good run on his own.
Olivier Beretta was in the lead coming into the pits. The car has dropped to third after a bit longer of a pit stop than some of your competitors. You look a bit worked over, though, Olivier. How's the car handling for you?
Well, the car was good. I have a very good team. The team Risi did a very good job. The Ferrari is working well. I just have a little trouble at the first stint because someone hit me, and to avoid the wall, I have to take it large. Otherwise, my second stint was great. I think the race is still long, but we are in good shape.
With your history in the American Le Mans Series and this being the final 12 Hours of Sebring under that banner, been a few years since you've had a class victory here. What would it mean to grab another one today?
Well, right now I'm focusing on the race, and if we can win, it would be great for Risi, but right now the race is still long, but for sure we are here for winning.
Thank you, Olivier.
And I know the Risi group has experimented with different tire compounds, and they were trying to get a balance on the car early. Remember, we saw Jimmy Bruni move backwards in that first stint, and I think part of the problem was just trying to find a compound for the temperatures, and they seem to have found something that's going to work. So right now, Matteo Malicelli out in the prancing horse from Risi and prancing hopefully back to the front, but he's got a Viper he's going to have to work past if he wants to get up front. For Benoit Trillier, having a great run. Marino Franchitti sits in the lead in P2. Bryce Hill, Johnny O'Connell, Justin Bell back with you from the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. You ride on board the number 93 Viper, Jonathan Bomarito behind the wheel. This car had some problems earlier, but the team car, Mark Goossens, up in second in GT, and the Vipers are strong. There's a look at the 91. Goossens, after pit stops, working his way forward. You know, it's great to see the Viper back for its first full season with the new generation GT-SR. And earlier this week, we caught up with the SRT team who compared the two generation of Vipers.
I mean, if you compare the new generation Viper GT-SR, as far as the cars were built, I mean, the old one was built in a GT1 spec, which had a lot more horsepower and different tricks on it. And this spec is a GT2 spec, so a lot less horsepower, but we have an enormous amount of technology on these new ones.
You know, if you were a half a second off back then, it would maybe be just a couple spots. Now it's probably 10, 12 spots, something like that. But the GT battle that's raging in ALMS right now is as tough as it gets. So credit to SRT for saying we want to come back against the best.
And our compadre Tommy Kendall was spot on. The difference between first and eighth in qualifying was 9/10 of a second. So, I mean, he was right. It used to be a half a second wasn't a big deal. Now it is a big deal. It may be three rows on the grid.
Well, and Brian, not only that, that's just qualifying. The way this race is done now, as we see the two car in the pits, but this race right now is 12 hours of qualifying, and yet you need to understand that on the factory teams, a report is done on every single driver. Kelly.
See, the number 2 Audi has come in. Tom Christensen is out, and now Alan McNish, the Scotsman, will take over the driving duties. It looks like he will get a started stint on fresh Michelins. And you just watching the nuances of a pit stop as Alan McNish takes his seat insert. He's the smallest stature of these three drivers here on the number 2 Audi. Needs a little bit of a boost to get that seating position just how he'd like it. Appeared to be a good, clean stop for the 2 Audi, and Alan McNish is on his way.
I just got to say, Kelly, you know what? I know you just got engaged. That's really cool, and you don't need to make friends with any of the hot young drivers. But you called Olivier Beretta within 5 minutes a veteran, and that he looked knackered when he got out of the car. And now you just called Alan McNish short. I'm just throwing it out there while I've just been chuckling.
But I thought I said them both with a little bit of panache.
I thought you were very politically correct.
That's funny.
Justin, on the other hand, wants to throw you under the bus.
Yeah.
But McNish does have his Barca lounger that he has to put in the car when he gets in, because he is a little smaller in stature than some of his teammates. And that, in all seriousness, is difficult. You've got drivers of different size, and it's not an ideal seating position for anybody.
You know what? And as we look at Alan McNish, you are seeing he might be tiny, but he is one of the toughest guys out there. I mean, I've watched this guy for so long and been out there on the racetrack with him, and this guy gets 110% every single time. Always aggressive. And, that's one of the reasons that he's been successful with Audi for so long.
Yeah, believe me, even a Mike Tyson wouldn't want a Manny Pacquiao coming at him in an anger.
Well,
that's how he is.
They call TK the Great Dane. Obviously, he's Danish, but, Calvin Fish is always calling Alan McNish the little Scottish Terrier because he is just aggressive. As you said, he's focused, and there is a lot of fight in that man, and he's going to fight behind the wheel right now.
Oh, I thought he humps your leg. I don't know. That was just what my terrier does.
Can we take a break now?
Yeah. You know what? It is fantastic. They get out there. This is now coming up over the next hour and a half into the most beautiful driving time here at Sebring. And sunset is due to be at 7:35 p.m. tonight. But when we have zero cloud cover like we have now, or very, very high whispery clouds, we get the full benefit of the Florida sunshine all the way up until full darkness falls. So we're going to have some beautiful shots for you all the way through the next hour.
Which is great for, everybody watching TV and the fans and all that kind of stuff. But as the race car driver, you are hating it. You go through 3, 4, 5, and then all the way down to 7. You are getting blinded. A lot of times you'll see drivers holding their hands up over, in front of their face. And it's difficult visor-wise. What do you do? Do you go to a dark visor? But then if it gets, as the sun goes down, throw it up. I mean, it is a difficult thing. A lot of drivers trying different things. And going into 17, where a lot of passing is done, again, that sun's going to be right in your eyes.
Tell you what, Alan McNish, that outlap, the Michelin's not up to temperature or pressure again like we talked about before. Through turn 16 that time, Marco Holzer in the Paul Miller Porsche was in front of him, and McNish held back. He learned, and he knows the consistency of the officiating. There was a time when he would have put that car in there and said, I'm going through, but not now. I think they've learned, hey, we need to drive a little cleaner, and we also know that the one has that under tray problem. Let's not do anything to set ourselves back. So McNish, his drink tube is not attached to the drink bottle. You see it coming out of the helmet. That's how he takes a drink while he's out there. There's a button on the steering wheel which will kind of squirt some fluid in his mouth, but it is not attached to his drink bottle, and it's flopping around right now. That's going to do two things. One, it's an annoyance, and two, he's going to get really thirsty. McNish working hard from Sebring. Benoit Trillier, his teammate, continues to lead. More to come from the 61st running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. You'll see it right here live on Speed. Benoit Trillier leads from Sebring. Let's take a look at the Green X Challenge standings right now, with Trillier out in front on the racetrack. Audi also 1 and 2 in the prototype class for Michelin Green X Challenge. And in GT, Risi Competizione out in front. It goes Ferrari, BMW, Corvette. A good mix of manufacturers there fighting for the title in the Michelin Green X Challenge from here at Sebring. Look at this. It looks like smooth sailing for Trillier, but in reality, we know that the number one car is wounded. It has that under tray that was flopping. Interesting to look on a tails away shot to see if perhaps some of the exhaust smoke has gone away. That's something that the officials had warned about. So perhaps they've turned down the amount of diesel being put into that power plant on the Audis. Alan McNish has taken over in the 2. That's because Tom Christensen, the Great Dane, handed it over on the last stop.
And while he's led at times, it hasn't been really smooth sailing for the 1 or 2. Tom, you got out and had a little debrief. Did you have any feedback for the engineers?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's all getting into the window where the race will be decided, and we're still very much in the hunt. We need always, of course, with a strategy in terms of the yellows to be on the right tires. We have optimized a bit with the tire pressures, and I think we are still having a strong chance, and we are definitely believing we can do it.
You're running the new aero package on the 2 car. You've also got a new camera system that's supposed to improve a bit of visibility. How are you finding both of those today?
I mean, obviously on this track, you see there's so much traffic. So whatever you can have to rely on these things, it's really important. There hasn't been really any contact. There's been the small issues now and then, but that's more people who haven't seen us, and that's of course the risk when we come in the fast cars. and at the same time, it's brilliant, and I think everyone is doing a good job, and I think the fans hopefully loves it as well as we do.
Can you talk about this event being special, that it always brings, this event always brings Audi back, and guys like you who are looking to put their names in the record book?
I didn't yet, but I mean, it's bittersweet to be here. We only get one chance to win the final race with these types of cars, and we are definitely doing that. But we are, on the other side, we also a little bit sentimental that this will be the last time that these great people with the cars are giving us support to do what we like best, is to go flat out on a tough old school circuit like Sebring.
Thanks, Tom.
Flat out. And he's right, flat out on an old school circuit, and I think the fans are getting quite the show. If you come up with only one word to describe an R18, it's just sexy. It's just sexy.
You know, it was, I think, what has happened here for Audi, the Audi family, in their relationship with America was summed up very well last night. Don Panos is the Grand Marshal here, and I'll tell you a bit more in a minute because Kelly's down there with the #1 car.
As I climbed out, the one Audi coming in, and Benoit Trullier is out. It looked like it was Marcel Fessler that will take over driving duties on the #1, and he'll do it coming off of a full service stop here. So this Audi running the older aero package. It's sort of like going with a proven car here in the 1 versus the development car, the #2, sort of the car of the future for Audi. And they finish up getting those Michelins on. A smooth stop here for Audi.
Last night, Dr. Ulrich had the chance to say a few nice words about Dr. Panos, and the depth of their relationship is not just on a personal level, because Dr. Panos actually cooked pasta at Dr. Ulrich's house for him, but he was talking about, I think, the way that this has influenced Audi's ideology on racing and their outlook. I think it's been good. The fans here have shown the drivers how they should behave and could behave to each other. So I would really like to think, and everyone watching this, everyone out there in the infield should be very proud that I think we have helped Audi become not just better racers, but maybe better competitors. And I think the relationship's gone both ways. Did I say something wrong?
No. I got to tell you, they have been impressive since the get-go. And I think if there's a company that has really shown what motorsports does to image, it's Audi. You go back in the U.S., you know, in the 90s, Audi was not a big, blingy brand that people were aspiring to. What they have done here in the United States in the American Le Mans Series and at Le Mans has completely changed the image of that vehicle. And that is why you see so many manufacturers. Viper getting back in, Corvette, you know, being in, BMW being in here. This is where they can showcase their greatness.
Well, we talked earlier about the prototype challenge category, and there are two of the protagonists who have run up front all day long. The 52 of David Chang and the #8 of Kyle Marcelli.
Well, Kyle Marcelli took over the lead just in the last 30 minutes. Something that's also happened in the last hours. I've been paying attention to the track temperature. We saw a peak temperature of about 105 degrees. It's down almost 15 degrees right now, and that's something that is definitely affecting these new Continental tires, the new spec tire for this class. And I had a chance to go by Continental and speak with them this weekend on their new arrangement with the series. And this is something that just came about in the last 6 to 8 months. Discussion started back in August, and it wasn't until the last 2 months that things were firmed up. None of these teams had access to any of these tires until Monday of this week. However, they did receive what's called CalSpan data about 2 weeks ago, and that helps them with some of the suspension setup on this car. That CalSpan data has things like camber thrust and spring rate and lateral force, slip angles, things like that. Stuff that I'm sure Justin Bell is very well versed in. And the real interesting thing about this tire is it was 3 seconds quicker, almost 3 seconds quicker than the track record last year in PC. And right now, when these cars are out there running, they're running very close to that previous track record too.
Justin, I think he just gave you a hard time, and there's a hard time on the racetrack. It looks like a prototype challenge car and the 02 Extreme Speed Motorsports HPD chassis getting together there in the turn 3, 4, 5 combination. And they're all back underway, but it does get bottled up in there, and we certainly have seen plenty of action there in the past. In fact, it's where battle for the lead in GT was settled. Take a look into turn 2. Oh, it's the 6 into the side of the 0-2. And remember, Klaus Graf served the penalty, and then you see another problem when the prototype challenge car gets in there. The 6 has already been on pit road with a stop and hold for 60 seconds. The question is, will he get another one, and this time, will it be worse?
I dare you, Johnny. Go on. Defend that one.
You can't.
Ed Brown's having a rough day. Ed Brown is having a rough day. You know what? Again, the rule was set. You know, at that kind of contact, that the responsibility for the safe pass is on the overtaking driver. So I don't see how they could not pull Klaus in.
Well, we're going to find out. Klaus Graf, has he run afoul of the rules yet? Again, we'll find out when we come back. But we'll take another chance to look at a little history as we go to break. A decade ago. 2003 proved to be another record-setting year for Audi. This time, Yost Racing took a 4th consecutive race win, the most consecutive wins for a team in event history. That win spoiled the debut of Bentley as Frank Vila, Marco Werner, and Philip Peter each claimed their first Sebring win. Corvette proved that their 2002 victory was no fluke, but instead the start of a winning streak of their own, as Johnny O'Connell and Ron Fellows took a 2nd straight win, this time teamed with Frank Briand. And there's a look at Central Florida, some of the lakes around the Sebring area. It is known for its orange groves and its great weather, and that's exactly what we have had this week here at Sebring International Raceway. It's been great for the competitors, the cars, and certainly the fans. And there is a look at the number 44 Flying Lizard entry. Running in the GTC category, Brett Sandberg behind the wheel. The 44 was up in 2nd not long ago, and it was a Flying Lizard 1-2 in the GTC category. The last time Flying Lizard won here at Sebring was 2008. Wolf Hensler, Jörg Bergmeister, and Mark Lieb shared the car that day in 2008 when they won. And now with Flying Lizard moving to GTC, they'd like to move into the record books as winning in that class as well. And Spencer Pompelli leading the class in the 45, and there he flashes through turn 17. The Falcon tire Porsche right behind him. And we're used to seeing those cars run together in years past in the same class, but this year, as we've talked about, GTC for Flying Lizard. Oh, and Pompelli.
You know, what a brilliant shot that was, though, coming down the straightaway, where you can really compare the width of each vehicle and just kind of the profile of them.
Yeah, as Calvin likes to say, Chris Neville is more like a GTC car, very thin, skinny, and I have hips more like the GT Porsche.
Actually, I think Chris says it's more like the transporter that bought the GT car. I know, but it's great to see those cars. They really, you know, just what Porsche do for worldwide motorsports, and to have them represented in 2 categories here is great.
Oh, and the leader in the Prototype Challenge category is now in the pits, and they're going to change the nose. Don't know if there was damage up front. I mean, there's not a lot of aerodynamic devices on the nose of the car, so I've got to think that there must have been some type of damage. But that team having a good run. Kyle Marcelli putting on a show. Stefan Johansson also doing a good job in that car. Could be for the lights as well, but if they didn't have the lights working, they needed to get that job done before we get into darkness. Marcelli, Chris Cumming, Stefan Johansson, and for Chris Cumming, this is a new experience. Experienced sedan driver, has driven Porsches and GT Challenge and GT.
And Brian, what a strong team. You know, Stefan Johansson and Kyle Marcelli. Those two are extremely strong drivers.
And a good team. Brian Alder at Bar 1, you know, did a lot of work with the fields over the years, and he and Chapman Ducote had kind of built this program. And Brian Alder, you see that 6 car in the penalty box as the 8 heads back out. He and Brian Alder have done a good job in building this, and now it's Brian Alder's program, and he continues to put good cars under his drivers. The 500 on pit road. Sounds strange to say 500. It's a big number. David Heinemeier Hansen crawls in.
I am astounded by this. And Paul Walters, race director, I am merely a leaf on his intellectual tree. He is extraordinary, and the calls his races, you say, Johnny, have been consistent, but we must not reward idiocy. What happens is we do not want to create a culture where the car being overtaken does not have to pay attention to what's going on behind him. The Muscle Milk car did not just drop out of the sky. It was catching him since turn 17, if not before. And Ed Brown was not paying attention, and he closed the door. And Paul, you're spot on, but you didn't quite work for me, that one. Am I annoyed? Does anyone think?
No, you know what? And you're right, because you know what? There has to be, you know, some choreography and some understanding of what's going on. I mean, you know what? When I was driving for Corvette, they were great about spotting, letting you know who was coming up. And obviously the other teams aren't doing that because, you know, in all of these instances, could they have been avoided? Yes. But, you know, again, you know, Paul is just maintaining his consistency, but I do think they need to look at it because you are right, Justin. I'm not going to argue that there is some responsibility on the person being overtaken.
Sports car racing has this beautiful ebb and flow. It's got a yin and yang to it, and when it goes well, and because of people like Paul, we get this great synergy in the racing. You know how to let someone by. You back off for a quarter of a second, boom, they go by in front of you. You've not lost any time. They've not lost any time. It is mutual respect. And right now, there's none of that.
And go back to the one with the 3 car at the beginning of the race. The PC cars at the start of a race so often hold up the GT cars, and they should just get out of the way. It really does cause issues.
The 500 back on track. I'll let you guys continue to talk about this later. The 500 back on track, and so is Klaus Graf. The radio almost melting as he sat in the pit box as the report from down in the pits. The guys listening on the scanners were certainly getting an earful, but this is where Klaus has to take that anger and set it back and go drive the race car because it'll get you in trouble.
Well, and he brings it into pit lane again, and you know, again, see, why is this happening? Well, you know, that's the way Klaus always drives, and what's going to be difficult for these drivers, the experienced pros who are used to being aggressive and sticking it in there hard, you know, to make that overtaking maneuver, they are having to adjust and be patient, and that's when you have issues.
Klaus Graf bringing the car in. It should be a routine stop.
Well, it's also going to be a driver change on this stop. We're going to see Lucas Lord get back behind the wheel. They're going to do 4 tires. They're also going to put a new nose on the car because obviously the contact out there has hurt the right side, the right front corner. We can see the dive planes that are just ripped off that right front corner. Some of the body work ripped away too. So this car not up to snuff, not as quick as it was just a little while ago when it was running 3rd on the racetrack, the fastest petrol car out there, and filling out the podium in that spot. You know, they haven't had the speed of the Audis all week long, but at least they've been right there with the other petrol cars, the Rebellion cars, trying to win that today. But with these last 2 penalties, Klaus Graf definitely sliding down the order. He's finally gotten Lucas Lord buckled into the car, and he's going to make his way over the wall. He was not happy on the radio. He threw his hand up in the air. He's going to start taking his helmet off, and we're going to get with him here in a minute. But I was listening on the radio when he came in to the penalty box, and he was just livid, just telling the team that he didn't feel that any of these penalties were really his fault. He's just out there racing hard. He's trying to take it to the Audis, take it to the Rebellions, and with all this traffic out there, Klaus finally has his helmet off here, and we're gonna get with him here. Hey, Klaus. I was listening to you on the radio there, and obviously you're not happy about these penalties.
This is not fair. I mean, we race here. I mean, the guy from behind always gets the penalty, or how does this work? I mean, that's not fair in my mind. If I'm next to a guy, the guy needs to pay attention and let me go through. This is not fair racing like this. This is a joke to me.
You were having problems earlier in the day, but you guys have fought back. You were in 3rd there. You were finally in front of the Rebellion cars, and then in this last hour, things have just kind of fallen apart.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still a lot of racing left. We'll come back. I'm not feeling treated fair at the moment, to be honest.
Not happy, but as he said, we've got a lot of racing to go, and they're going to hope to get that car back up in a podium position.
Yeah, they now dropped a lap to Nick Heidfeld in the number 12 Rebellion. The Audis out in front by about 5 laps over the number 6 right now, 4 over the Heidfeld. So right now they've got a long way to go to try to find their way back. Go to speed2.com to watch exclusive motorcycle racing on demand. Watch full races of Monster Energy Supercross, as well as your favorite series, such as Isle of Man, Bike Road Racing, FIM World Motocross, and FIM Trial World Championship. Go to speed2.com for more info. We'll be back to more from Sebring International Raceway in the 61st running of the Mobile One 12 Hours of Sebring. Plenty of stories yet to tell. Throughout the 2012 American Le Mans Series season, GT was intense, and it is intense here at Sebring. Look at this. This is the battle for the GT lead. It's the number 4 Corvette of Richard Westbrook, and in hot pursuit right behind him, the number 91 Viper. Mark Goossens behind the wheel as Lucas Luhr flashes through with the brand new nose on that number 6 HPD P1 entry from Muscle Milk. But these guys have been at it all day long in GT, and it's going to continue all the way to the checkered flag. This is horsepower versus horsepower, big thumping American car muscle.
Well, you know what, and one thing that Corvette showed was that the team aspect of this, because remember on the last caution, they came in fourth and they went out first. So that it was the team, better pit stop, got them in the lead, but Mark Goossens has been flying. He is doing an amazing job in that Viper.
Goossens just a little loose under braking. It closed up because of this incident just a little while ago. Take a look at this.
Westbrook really deep in there. Light. Well, hard to say whether there was contact there or not. Maybe a little bit of contact.
Braking into turn 10. Let's see. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Set him around.
So.
Waiting for me to comment. I'll tell you, you know what? No, I don't do that. But you know what? Based on the way they've been playing, you've got to do it. You got to bring the Corvette in.
Joe Sweetler gets turned around in the 23 from Alex Joe.
And you know what? Here's the thing. Goossens will be getting that information on his radio. Don't race the Corvette too hard. There's a good chance they're going to have a stop in 60.
Yep. We can pick up the lead when he has to come to pit lane. You see the prototype challenge car in between the two of them now. That's the Core Autosport 05. And I'm sure, like you said, Bill Riley running that team, the SRT team, it's his team. And he knows what's been happening all day long, and he'll be aware of it. And there's no reason to race on the racetrack if you can change positions in pit lane. The 05 working his way through. That's Mark Wilkins in the orange and white prototype. Just in front of them, you see the 007. I believe it's the 007 Aston Martin.
I mean, you know I'm one of them people from over there, so I do like those European cars. But my racing career really and my passion is in American muscle. And as an American car fan out there, racing fan must be overjoyed about this because they are really going at it under the stewardship of Ralph Gilles and Beth Peretta. They should be very proud. I don't think they thought they would be doing this today.
Now, you know, I talked to Bill Riley, though, and I said, what would you improve if you wanted to get a competition adjustment? What would you ask for? And he said, you know, I don't think I would ask for anything. It's up to us now to make it go quicker. I said, what's the strong suit? He said, the engine. It's reliable. We're not stressing it very much. In fact, it turns fewer RPM in race trim than it does on the street. That's good. The weak link, we don't know yet. We haven't raced it enough. So they're very happy with this car.
Well, and it's looking so stout. You know, right out there now. And when you said they don't turn it very fast, they are turning that motor 5,400 RPM.
See the rear view mirror on the Corvette?
He's there.
That screen in the middle has radar on it, Johnny, and I mean, you're familiar with how that works. You saw the faster prototype get picked up with an arrow. You can look back now and you can see a little chevron in the back, and the closer the car gets, the larger the chevron gets until it turns red. And not only is it great, obviously, not only is it great under clean conditions.
I've seen it. You were definitely alongside.
In the rain, it is absolutely phenomenal. You can hear Westbrook talking about the penalty, and Westbrook saying, hey, well, there was a blue flag. They were telling them to let me go, so I went in, so I shouldn't get a penalty, so let them know that there was a blue flag. He hasn't been given a penalty yet, but based upon the things that we've seen today, will he be getting one?
You know, a fabulous. Oh, look at that right there. Here comes the radar. And you know what? One thing where this might work very interestingly is when you get one of those switchback maneuvers. You know, when you dummy the guy one way, that arrow will go one side and then flick the other. I wonder if it says sorry somewhere in the middle.
And what's so great about this system, is it valuable here? Yes, but you also have a spotter here on the radio watching the deal, you know, watching their screens. But when you get Le Mans, you don't have a spotter. Right there, you see that rush. And what's really cool about this, I have some history with this because we actually tested this on the Cadillac back in November, a couple months later, and then you have this amazing system here.
And does it tell you when you have to put a quarter in when you're about out of time? Do you have to add more? Will it tell you that?
A whole lot more than a quarter.
Yeah, exactly. Richard Westbrook continues the lead in GT. It remains to be seen if he'll have to pay a price for the contact with the 23. We'll have that answer when we come back to Sebring.